This is her very first story at 10 by 9. Please welcome Kayla Fioravanti.
I am an accidental entrepreneur. When I finished college, I had my entire life planned out for me. Next stop, a gap year, and then my master's degree, and then a PhD. As Dr. Kayla, my goal was to help people with their mental health. During the gap year, I partied a little too hard, and then boom, single motherhood. I used to think that kids smelled like dirt and maple syrup, so motherhood was not part of my plan. Broke, single, and pregnant, I started looking for a new way to make a living. That's when I stumbled into the multi-level Amway. There I met a serial entrepreneur and married him. But everything we touched turned into failure. Amid the disappointments, a stubborn case of ringworm on my son's face led me to discover aromatherapy. After a lifetime of fragrance allergies, I was stunned because the smelly tea tree helped heal my son's ringworm and didn't make me sick. I became an obsessive researcher. Being frugal, I used the rest of the tea tree to make Christmas gifts, and just in case anybody wanted more soap, we included reorder forms. Tacky, I know, but it worked. Soon orders were rolling in, so we scraped together $50, which was the minimum supply order, and we launched a mail order catalog. Yes, I said mail order, I am that old. Then in 1999, my best friend threw a party so that I could share my products with her friends. I passionately shared about essential oils while I passed my products around. Afterwards, I had $500 in sales, and 2 people wanted to know how to join my party plan. I said, I'll tell you on Monday. So at home, I announced, we're starting a party plan. Before we knew it, we had 50 consultants across the country. We moved out of our kitchen and into a 600 square foot space that I just figured if we failed again, we could live there. I led parties, fulfilled orders, and supported the consultants. The business exploded, but without a structure to support it, it began to collapse. Internally, the sirens were sounding, pull over, exit this vehicle. But I was committed by marriage and by mouths to feed. I had 1 baby in my belly, 1 baby on my back, and I was homeschooling my son while I was working around the clock. I feared that soon we were going to be joining the homeless population of Portland, Oregon. My spouse would joke that we'd be living under the Burnside Bridge soon, and I didn't find it funny at all. We fell into a rhythm day after day. We used that day's profits to buy the next order of supplies, and we did it over and over again. But failure was gaining on us. Then we got a call, the call that every business hopes for, a big client, a big opportunity. We set a meeting, we waited and waited and waited. No one showed up. We'd been catfished. I was out of borrowed hope, but I didn't have time for a pity party. So with the unexpected free time, I walked down 2 blocks to my supplier's building, and I entered there defeated. And in that lobby, everything changed. There was an older gentleman waiting at the counter. He wanted to speak to the owner about selling his shampoo and conditioner, and I very much wanted to talk to this stranger. He was selling the one category I hadn't figured out yet. So I stood there eager like a cat waiting to pounce. I knew that owner was not coming out to meet him. So just as he turned to leave, I stuck out my hand and said, hello, my name is Kayla. I own a business right down the street, and I would very much like to talk to you about your shampoo and conditioner. That man was George, and George changed my life. George stood in our little facility, taking in the chaos with a bemused smile. He told us that he was a retired chemist and a millionaire, and he helped letting other people become millionaires. George declared that he wanted to help us too. The shampoo and conditioner was just a hobby for him. George began to pour into us. He gave us special pricing on that shampoo and conditioner, and with every delivery, he would deliver a story and a lesson. We restructured our company into the kind of business structure that we needed as a baby startup company, a manufacturing partner with low minimums and bulk bases. We were in the right place at the right time with the right mentorship. And soon we were growing with leaps and bounds. In fact, we were bursting at the seams. So much so that our UPS driver went and found us another building that was 2,700 square feet because he was so tired of trying to navigate our building. So we thought when we moved into this that we were set for years. And 5 months later, every inch of space was taken. That's when George decided it was time for us to move into 10,000 square feet of his building. We could not afford 10,000 square feet of any building, but George believed in us. He let us pay a portion of our profits until we could cover the full rent. The first time I stood in that empty space, I couldn't wrap my mind around being able to fill 10,000 square feet of facility. We moved in, the space was vast and echoed, and then it was full. And we needed more space and more space until eventually we expanded into all 30,000 square feet that was available to us. In George's building, we didn't just expand. We built a multi-million-dollar company, bottle by bottle, lesson by lesson. With George's hands up, we were listed in Inc. magazine's fastest growing companies 3 years in a row. Without George and his sound advice, we were headed straight for another failure. But instead, in 2012, we got the offer to sell our company for a lot more than the $50 we started with. All because one day, everything fell apart. And in that humble moment, I met George. And George offered to help us. George modeled a business built on reaching back to help the next person climb up. From his example, I discovered the joy of building business rooted solely on the success of my customers. Soon, sharing my knowledge in the emerging field of clean cosmetics became my driving force. As George poured energy into us, I watched as his other revenue streams were thriving, as if generosity unlocked some kind of sacred geometry. And above all, George was filled with joy every single day. He was living in his purpose, and it was contagious. George led me to my true mission, which was worth far more than the money. But don't get me wrong, the money was nice. And I love formulating cosmetics. But being part of the origin story of other people's dreams, that drives me. And George gave me that gift. After we sold, we moved to Tennessee and away from George. I retired to focus on raising my kids. Chaos reigned again. Horrified, I watched as all the money disappeared while I frantically tried to put the focus on the lessons from George to no avail. In my 50s, I walked away from the chaos. The money was gone, but I was rich in knowledge. I started over in life and business with my adult children and daughter-in-law. The purpose and confidence that George instilled in me were still mine. No one could take that from me. Last time I spoke to George, he told me that he helped 8 people become millionaires. What a legacy. I don't know where I'd be today if I hadn't reached out my hand, because George redirected my future, not only for my business, but for my life and my children's lives. In fact, today, the George of my business is my very own son. In every business has an origin story. Mine started with $50 and everything I could teach myself at the local library. But it grew because George loved helping other people become millionaires, and he chose me.
So 10x9 Nashville is a Belfast-originated monthly community storytelling night where 9 people have up to 10 minutes each to tell a true story from their life. Every event has a theme and every event is free. Tonight's theme, of course, is help, and we're partnering with the good people at Second Harvest Food Bank. Please give it up for Second Harvest.